Very much, Sam. Thank you very much for attending. I know y'all are busy. Is taking that time out of your day. I'm going to hopefully make this a little bit for you informative, and then also help you sell some product out there. You know, one of the things that I've always said is that the best upsells people in the world work at McDonald's or Burger King or Whataburger. And the point is, you want to supersize that. Would you like an apple pie with that? And we're kind of like that. Whenever you're selling building wire, especially, you should be asking about how they're terminating the conductor, because that's what we go on the end of. And so that what we're going to go over today is what's UL qualified, what's a UL listed, between UL classified, some basic knowledge, and we're going to jump right into it. And anytime if you have questions, please, Sam, I guess they can direct them to you that way, and shoot them over to me if you have anything.
Yeah, will do.
So what is a UL qualified crimp? You know, you hear a lot out there. What's going on is I got this tool. Can it be used on this lug? And what is the difference between UL listed and UL classified? Well, those two answers to that question right there actually answers the first. The difference between UL listing and UL qualified is that basically whoever is who owns the product being tested can UL list it. Who, if you don't own the product, you can't UL list it, but you can UL classify it. All right. So that's actually, and I'll cover that a bit more here in a minute. We're going to gain basic product knowledge, the installation knowledge, decode our what our actual catalog numbering system means, show you the difference between the Sure Crimp offering on our range of what we do, a little bit what sets us apart from the competition, and how you can sell it with confidence going forward on that. And as we just talked about is the UL listing and UL classification is who owns the product. The test is actually the exact same test. And that's a key thing. But inside of UL 486AB and UL 467 for grounding and 486 is for power. A stands is for the copper side and B is for the aluminum side. You have a lot of things you have to test inside of that. All right. And what I mean by that is you sell THHN, you sell components, you sell compact, you sell cable. All of those have to be tested. And they have to be tested with the tool. And if it's a die tool, it has to be tested with the tool, the die, the conductor, and the lug. Meaning that you can test for THHN, get UL classify something, but that does not give you classification if you're using a multi-stranded, highly flexible cable. Everything has to be tested as a group on that part. Our tooling, our Taskmaster tooling, is the only one out there right now that we have. Of course, we UL list everything we make with our product UL listed, but we have also UL classified all of our competitors out there being Burndy, Panduit, and ABB, whatever they're going by today, TNB. So we have tested it for power and grounding, copper and aluminum, every which way they can be tested. We have out there classified all of it. And you can rest assured when you sell one of our tools that your customer can put on any one of those products and they have a UL qualified crimp going forward. A little bit on the product basics. You have two types of connectors. You have compression and mechanical. The main difference is on that is that on your on compression, it is a non-reversible product. Once you put either in a die tool a minimum of 12 tons of pressure onto that connector, you're not taking it off unless you cut it off. Mechanical is a different story. You do have a mechanical set screw, or you could have a mechanical clamping device on there. And those can be backed off, but they also have to be torqued to a certain tightness on there. And what you're doing is making contact points. So going forward with that, it depends on, I have a lot of questions at times, what's better, mechanical or compression? And the answer always is, what's your application? If it's a highly vibration area on that, then you definitely want to do as much as you can to stay away from mechanical because it could back it off. And if you're in that area, you do want to go with a compression type connection because it is more, susceptible to that. And then you got in your product basics here, we got two types of compression lugs. You got aluminum shear crimp and you got copper. So you get a phone call from a guy, or a lot of times you will get a bill of material. I need a number 6 lug. I need a number 250 lug. It doesn't tell you a whole lot. You need to get back in touch with them. Is it copper, aluminum? Is it mechanical? Is it compression? That's going to lead you down. Going to go. And one hole, two hole, long barrel, short barrel. There's a lot of you got that. But then you got on there, but you got to remember that you can always put in on aluminum lugs or an AL9CU rated. You can always use copper or aluminum code cable in an aluminum lug, but you cannot put aluminum cable into a copper lug. It's called the anodic and cathodic. And aluminum is a very anodic metal to the copper being a cathodic. And the anodic metal will always give up its electrons to the cathodic. So if you put your copper cable into a aluminum lug, the aluminum lug immediately starts giving up its electrons to the copper cable. But there is such a mass of aluminum around the copper that what you create is called the mass anode effect. And eventually that it reaches an equilibrium and that electron transfer stops. But the difference is if you put an aluminum conductor into a copper lug, now you have created what is called the mass cathodic effect. And that reaction will continue until that aluminum cable goes completely away. So just to back your mind, you can use aluminum lugs on that part and for copper or aluminum, but you can only put copper into a copper. Don't ever do the other part. And one of the versatilities of our product is this, is that with our major competitor out there, it starts with a B. They have a lug for code. They have a lug for flex. They have a lug for grounding. Inside of flex, they have a couple of different sizes in that on that part. 86A. So you got one lug that will do the entire gamut for you instead of having to stock a bunch of different lugs out there. So we can get you out there in an area where we don't have to stock as much material on the shelf on that part. And there was somebody talking earlier about having a bunch of different lugs on the shelf at this time. So in our copper lug, you have 8 different types of cable that it's been rated for on that part, which gives you a very high, and I have some, Sam, you've got actually the supporting material just sent out on this, but ours can accept 8 classes of copper conductor there. And we're pretty much the only one in the industry that is tested it that way going forward. So what does our part number mean? CSWD-2-14-34. Actually, it does actually mean something. Everything on there actually has a reason. The C stands for copper. If it was an aluminum, it would be an A. The S is for the standard barrel. L would be for long barrel. T would be for splice. You have either windows or or not windows on that part. So you can see where the peephole is, where the little red circle is. And then it tells you the D stands for double hole, which is a 2-hole lug. If a single hole lug, it'd be an S. And you can see the nomenclature on down there as we go. The next one's going to tell you the wire size. So it's a number 2 wire size on that. Now we're going to tell you the bolt hole size, 1/4 inch. And then we're going to give you the spacing. So everything on there actually means something on that part. And so that's a very intuitive way to do this. You got it looking for there. If you got a long barrel lug, it would be like a CND 500 MCM would be -500. And you'd have half 3/4 on centers, one would be -12, -134. So everything on there actually means something. And it's actually inside the catalog itself as well. as well on that part for you. So
Hey Ken,
additional,
what's the reason for the window? Is that just so you can see what you're crimping?
well, that's a good question. Actually, it is. Long barrel, the closed transition long barrel was the original lug that everybody came out with. And everybody was going down the road. Then they came apart. There were some inspectors that came out and they asked the question, how do I know that that cable has been completely inserted? And so that's the reason the actual inspection window is there. So some people require that. And it just kind of morphed into that way that they wanted, originally it was everything long barrel was closed transition. And if you had short barrel, then it was an open, with the windows, an open transition. And then it got to the point where they said, well, I need a long barrel with an open transition now. So we kind of morphed into those things as the years have gone along. But the main reason is to see the full cable insertion.
Gotcha.
And we do have some additional out there. Our normal rating for plating on this is 10 plated. And the reason 10 plating is if you look at that again, that table we had on the anodic cathodic metals, you'll see that number 1, 10 is right dead in the center of those metals. And then it also is a very common metal. It's a very cheap metal, comparatively speaking, to plate things with. So that's the reason we're really 10 plate. If you do, at times we have other people that come in and say, well, you need them silver plated, lead plated, or nickel plated, especially if it's a high temperature area. You'll see a lot of nickel plating coming through. And then we do have some bends out there, some 45s and 90s. And I have this question that comes up every once in a while. Can we bend our lug in the field? And the answer to that is technically, yes, you can, but you shouldn't. And the reason is you could crack that lug and not see it on that part. When you make that transition of making that bend, if you do stress it out too much, you could actually make a crack in there, and then you have a fault line that could develop as it's going forward. So don't bend them in the field. Let us do it in the factory, and we'll get you down the road where you need to go on that part. So here are all the different types of lugs that we make and all the nomenclature. If you needed a long barrel, the second one would tell you that it'd be L. If it's with no windows, it'd be an N coming through there. So a lot of ways you can do this. And we can make pretty much any lug you got from number 8 to 1,000 MCM across the board. And you can come up with a part number on that. Now, here's the key thing, installation. As I said before, everything has got to be tested together. You got to have the tool, you got to have the die, you have to have the lug, and you have to have the conductor, right? And there's 2 ways you can do this as well in the tooling. You have die, and you have, there's a question? Sorry.
I think there's somebody jumping on.
Oh, okay. So you have a die tool and you have dieless. And a lot of times the question comes up, which one's better? Well, again, it goes back to the answer is, what's your application? Personally, I prefer the die tool. And the reason I prefer the die tool is because it embosses the die index number onto the lug, which gives you a complete inspectability because the die index number is actually printed on the lug. So your inspector can come out, he can check the wire, he can look at the lug itself. It says what wire size it's on there, tells you what die number to use, and then that's actually embossed on the lug itself as well. So it makes a very smooth crimp, especially if you're doing anything above 600 volts. If you're doing any medium voltage, I would suggest die and long barrel with no open transition going forward. However, dieless does have its advantages as well. They both pass UL 486, which is a pretty tough test on that part. Dieless does give you a little bit of versatility. The reason that is that for the die tools, you have to have a die for each different wire size, and that can get expensive. The other thing is that they don't ever lose the entire die set. They only lose half of them. And the good thing is that we don't sell half die sets. So you get a little bit more your sell out there. So if you get somebody with a tool with dies, you pretty much got an annuity. They're going to lose dies as the tool is on that part. But competitors out there that are making some tools, and I'm not going to say their names, but they don't make lugs. And as we talked on earlier, you got to test every wire size. So you may have a competitor out there, I do, that makes tools that you might want to check and make sure that they have UL classified every wire size out there. Because we've had some things come up on some data center jobs that one of our lugs crimped on with a competitor's tool with their die, their recommendation, and at the very end, they could actually pull the cable out of the lug. This is up in the Pacific Northwest, and they ended up having to and actually go back down the road and redo everything. So they got a little contentious with the contractor, but it turned out it wasn't our issue on that deal. It had never been tested going forward. So that's the one thing with our Taskmaster tools is that you can rest assured that we have tested them in our own UL lab going forward. And we've also tested our lugs with our competitors' tools. So now this is an eye chart that Sam, I sent you a better PDF file on that you can pass out on that part. But we have actually gone in and UL listed our lugs with our competitors' tools. So if you do have a customer out there that has, say, it calls you up and say, hey, I got this Burndy tool, Sam will be sending out a supporting documentation that we will actually tell you what die to use. We tested with. And if you don't see it on that list, give me a call. I'd be glad to help you out on that as well. So we try to make it for you and versatile for you in the marketplace to utilize our product with anybody else's tooling out there. We don't want that to be an impediment going forward. So this is a little bit on our standards and our tool guides, and this is actually something that I sent you as well, Sam, and that's documentation. We talked about earlier on the dialysis tool and what it could do for you. One of the things it does for you is that it makes our lugs range taking on compression. What does that do for you? I know some of you, depending on where you are, you have square D gear, and you've probably sold some I-line panel boards and maximum breaker size in there. The frame would only up to a 500 MCM copper. And for voltage drop, your contractor pulled 750 or 600 or something like that. Now you got an issue because you can't get that cable into that lug. So knowing the good people that y'all sell to, nobody ever gives that wire haircut, as we call it. So you either got to order a pin connector, which you're scrambling for, or which you usually don't have, and you're probably air freighting them in. If you do buy the ones that are dual rated, make sure that you get 2 offsets, because if not, you're going to have a face-to-face on there as well. Or if you have what we have in our new 4-point dialysis tool, our TB6DF, which would go up from number 8 to 1,000 MCM copper and up to a 750 aluminum, you could actually take just say they pulled 750, you could take a 750 inline splice with a piece of heat shrink. You could crimp it down on one end on the 750. You could take a piece of 500 MCM and put it on the other end of that splice, or that 750 splice, and crimp it down. Pull up your heat shrink and insulate it off and go straight into your lug, and you would maintain your UL listing. How do we do that? Well, we tested it number 1 to 486 on that part. But the beauty of it is that one of the things that happens is however you install that cable into that mechanical lug that is a max of 500 MCM, you derate the cable back to 500, no matter what. So you can't overload the lug with the cable, and you can, or amperage wise, and you can't overload the cable with the lug amperage wise on that part. And the next one is going to show you a little bit on your situation. So technically, with 4 lugs in Ilsco and that TB6DF tool, 4-point dialysis tool, you could go all the way from number 8 to 1,000 MCM with 4 different lugs. If you want to reduce your SKUs, that's one way of doing it. However, it's not practical because you're not going to sell somebody a 300 MCM lug that really wants a 2-hawk. But if you do have an industrial and you have a maintenance guy out there, if it's burn downs happen at 3 a.m. on Christmas morning, they don't happen at 3 afternoon in the afternoon. So he shows up out there and he's got a 250 lug in the truck and a 4-watt cable. He could actually use that tool and get them up and going. So it gives them some things out there to do on that part. For our connector offering we have out there, you have narrow tongue, you have slotted tang, you have 2-hole, you have blank tang, you have single hole, bent tangs, all their different. Why would you need the differences on that part? Well, when you're going on to your stacking lugs and things of that nature, your 90 degrees and 45s will actually let you stack on top of each other. And in some cases, in some of the equipment that's out there, they actually make the equipment to come in that needs a 45 and 90, more telecom related than anything else, but it is out there. The other reason for a narrow tongue is that you've seen on your ground bars where they're coming in or to a power bar, a lot of times they will drill those holes close together. That narrow tongue allows you to put more conductors onto that ground or power bar going forward as well. So you see the demonstration we have here with the same size lugs. Excuse me, back up here. Going forward, those will fit nicely next to each other going across there. The slot tank. What does that do for you? In telecom and industrial, mainly anything else. If you don't know, if you're in the telecom industry, if any of you sold into that, you know that a lot of 1-inch on centers and maybe 3/4 on centers, maybe 7/8 on centers. Most of the time, it's not 3/4 on centers, which is NEMA drilled. So you get out there to the job site and you don't know which one it is. That slot will give you the versatility of being able to hook up to anything you got out there. And then also on the blank tongue, we offer that as well. You can actually go in and pop and drill your own holes, and we actually give you a chart that tells you where to put the hole, where to space it, where to center it, anything else, and they give you your minimum dimensions because you do have to have minimum dimensions from the tongue to the hole and to the side to side. And this is a key little part right here. We talked about stacking earlier. This is a stacking lug adapter, and it can be put on after you've actually made your crimp. And how you can do that is you notice from the very top there, you have the little slot. You have your tube on the bottom, you have it showing what it's done. All you have to do is just hook that in and slide that little bad boy in there. And this will actually be able to stack it up. UO will only let you do 2 lugs. Some people I've seen will try and do more than that, but UO will only allow 2. But this is a good OE in there. Nature, especially if they're coming in at a later date and retrofitting something you want to add, this can actually let you do that for you. Talked about the pins earlier. Your ACOs, ACMs, CPM, and CPLs are all dual rated. They will take aluminum or they will take copper on that. Our new F2C, which is flex code, is copper only on that part. The only drawback on the ACM pins and the CPM and CPML pins is you can't put a highly flexible cable into that connector. And the reason is since it's dual rated, it has oxide inhibitor, it'll gum it up. And you cannot put a flexible cable into a mechanical lug that does not have a what they call a torque TC screw, a constant torque screw in there, because it is not UL listed to just a regular conical mechanical lug, because as you torque down on the multi-stranded cable, you start damaging the strands, and once you damage 13% of the strands by UL, you have to pull new cable in there. So if you have a highly flexible cable, you want to go to the flex to code. If it's a code type cable, you can use either one. on that part. A little bit of difference there. Like I said earlier, the aluminum pin, dual rated. The copper is copper only on that part. So just make sure you know what you're asking for. If you don't know, ask a question. A little bit solar industry out there, industrial. If you need a longer pin, you go to CPML. Uh, Not much difference in there, but the main thing is that when you're going into you're reducing your reason you're using these is because you can't get into the mechanical lug. Make sure you size everything appropriately to what you're trying to do. A couple other areas that this is being used into. But the FlexiCode is one of the newest products we just hit the marketplace with. This product is out there. We come with it comes with a insulating hood on there, on that part. It is rated for flex and code cable, which a lot of our competitors out there are only rated for flex. So we differentiate our way in that way. It is it's an impact extruded connector, which means that it goes in from a billet and it is hit by a ram and is extruded into a mold on that part. So there's no seams or anything else. It's a very fast way to do it. It's an excellent connector. And actually, I have some. If I can find them, I'll pull one up for you right quick. But I don't think the camera's going to let me do that. Anyway, so very easy nomenclature on there too. All you have to do is it'd be F2C dash. If you got 777, it'd be a 777-750. So very simple way to pull that out. So all the way around, we can take care of you on the connectors as far as pin connectors go. ACM, ACO for CPM and CPL for your dual rated, and for copper only flex cable, highly flex, your F2C connector. Sure crimp against our competition out there. We own it. We have tested it internally. We have consistent quality. We make it in Cincinnati, and we have our own UL listing lab in Cincinnati that we can do everything. And one of the things that we have over our competition as well is that we actually get some of our competitors to send their product to us to UL list or UL for them with their stuff. So we get to kind of dissect it a little bit. And that's an advantage that we kind of like. So we can do everything. We have actually had help a customer out one time on a job that they didn't have UL classification on something, and it was our lug using something else, and we went ahead and ran a test for them and got that classification for them, so they didn't have to pull a bunch of things out before they actually did it, and pull the cable before they terminated it. So, other manufacturers out there stack up to us. Bernie owns their own manufacturing. They do their own testing. T&B, ABB the same way. Pan do it the same way. NSI is an outsourced completely. As far as their compression lugs and I believe also on their mechanical on that, but I know on compression, everything is outsourced 100 across the board. Inspectable product, all of us have it. We stack up together on there. As you can see on here on this lug, on the tongue itself, it gives you the part number. It gives you, inside of that, it tells you it's for 500 MCM. It also tells you what flex sizes it's for. It tells you there's a 3/8 inch bolt hole and it's on a 1-inch center. So everything on there is rated out for you. If you'll also notice, it tells you to use die number 87. And if you look real close, you can see that that 87 has been embossed onto that lug itself. Breadth of offering, we cover the gamut. We're right there with the big boys. NSI is a little bit of a short line across the board, but we'll go toe to toe with our competition out there every day. Our versatility is one of the things that sets us apart. We are compliant with about 80 different tools in the marketplace. Our lugs are rated for power and grounding. You don't have to stock different ones. They're direct burial rated. You don't have to stock a different lug for that or go to a different one. We're NEBS level 3 rated. What does that mean? Data centers on that part. one connector with 8 classes of conductor. We're the only ones out there that can say that across the board. Very versatile, very easy to use. This gives you a little bit of an idea of what we do. That one lug right there can handle 8 different classes for you that you would have to go to a lot of different lugs for the competition out there with the 80 tools that we've classified out there in the marketplace. This gives you a little bit of how we do things. And here's the key thing. Remember we talked about earlier about UL listing, UL classification. Burndy will only UL list its lugs with their tools and dies. ADB is the same way. But we have UL classified them for you. But they are the ones that if you use, they'll walk away from it. If we've tested it, we'll stand behind it if you did it the way we told you to do it. And that's going to get into one of the things I want to talk about is if you use a Taskmaster Ilsco tool with an Ilsco lug, we're going to give you a 5-year warranty on that connection. Burndy gives you 2 year, ABB is 2 years, Panduit's 1 year, NSI is 90 days. Big difference on that. So if you do it the way we tell you to, and anybody, be honest with you, anybody tells you to crimp it one time, two's not better. Always do it the way the manufacturer tells you to do it. But we do have our warranty out there for 5 years with you using our connection system. So here's some questions. Can you put copper conductor into an aluminum lug? As we talked about earlier, that answer is no. You cannot. Oh, excuse me. Basically, I'm backing up. Yes, you can put copper into an aluminum lug. You can't put aluminum conductor into a copper lug. What does a range taking mean and when it should be used? Depends on the application. Emergency situations, reducing down your wire size. What product can I use for voltage drop application if my aluminum conductor is too big for the landing? You're back to your CPMs, ACO, CPMLs. What can I use if I'm terminating aluminum wire or something that is sized for copper? That case we're talking about here is you've got aluminum wire that's going into a mechanical lug that is only rated for copper. And at that point, that's when you would use your CPM or CPML. Someone is ordering 750 MCM copper lugs and NEMA spaced holes. Good question. You got 2 ways you can go. You can go to a copper lug or you can use the aluminum lug. Both can be bought with NEMA spaced drilling holes. And how is our product better than Burndy? We're more versatile than they are. Flat out. We do the things for you that they don't. We don't have to stock a bunch of different lugs. We try to make it easier for you to use, and you don't have to have different on that part. One of the things we wanted to talk about is, last thing for any questions, if you have any, is about 2 months ago, Ilsco had been a family-owned company for 126 years. 2 months ago, it was announced that ECM Industries had purchased Ilsco. ECM Industries is owned by a private equity firm, which is not publicly traded, based out of Chicago. They own Gardner Bender, they own Sperry Meters, they own Bergen Lighting and King Innovation. So effective, I think it was the end of March, April, we are 100% owned by ECM Industries. Andrew Quinn, who was the president and CEO of Ilsco, also the grandson of the original owner, is staying on board. So he is still with us. And we are being, of course, they told us there'd be no changes, and then there were a lot of changes. But we don't know exactly everything that's going to be coming up. But by the end of August, 1st of September, I will know what I'll be having responsibility for. But we are part of the ECM Industries family now on that. So, Sam, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Hope that didn't bore too many people.
Oh, no, thank you. There's more science in this than what I thought. So, does anybody have any questions for Ken about any of the topics covered or the new ownership from the Ilsco side? I'll take silences that we've all memorized it all. Well, all right.
Hey,
Well, thanks everybody for hopping on the call here. And if, like I said, if you don't have Ken's contact information, just reach out to me and I'll pass that to you. And I'll also be passing everybody the marketing materials that Ken passed my way for everything here.
all right. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Sam, for setting up. Thanks, Ken, for being part of it. We appreciate it.
Oh, let Jenny. How you doing, Jenny?
Okay, I'm doing good.
Well, thank y'all very much. Appreciate
All
it.
right. Talk to
Have
y'all
a good
later.
day.
Bye.
Take care.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Ken.